Welcome to this evening's school board meeting, May 23rd, 2023. I want to start by reading the district's vision, and then we had the honor to have Manatee High School's color guard here this evening. So first, let me read the district's vision. The school district of Manatee County will be an exemplary, student-focused school system that develops lifelong learners to be globally competitive. With that, let's bring in our color guard, Manatee High School. They're represented by Todd Crawford, Lieutenant Colonel. You've got Commander U.S. Flag Janae Henderson. Florida Flag is Ashley Cholette. Rifle Abigail Bailey. Rifle Nicole Bailey.
Colors. Oh. Left. Face. Freeze it. Arms.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Right. Face. Forward. March.
Thank you very much to the MHS Color Guard. Now for the invocation, welcome up Mr. Rick Starrett, Executive Pastor at Trinity United Methodist Church.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you all. Let's pray. Gracious and loving God, tonight we come before you as members of the City School Board as they gather to make crucial decisions that will most likely impact the education, the well-being of our children. And so, God, we ask for your guidance and your wisdom as they deliberate and make choices that will shape the future of our community. We pray that you will grant them discernment and insight as they consider the needs of our students, our teachers, and families. God, may they be filled with compassion tonight and empathy as they seek to create policies and programs that will support and uplift those who are most vulnerable. Finally, we ask that you bless this meeting with a spirit of cooperation and collaboration so that all voices may be heard and respected. May the members of this board work together in unity and harmony, putting aside personal agendas and biases for the greater good of our city. And we pray for your protection and provision over our schools and all those who work and learn within them. May they be safe and secure, and may our children receive the education and opportunities they need to strive, thrive, and succeed. And we ask this tonight, all in the name of your holy Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
All right, you may be seated. Moving on to item number 7, the approval of the agenda. The chairs found good cause to amend the agenda to include all items listed under the agenda amendments on May 23rd, 2023 agenda, updated on May 19th and posted to the district website, manateeschools.net. A couple changes were just removing agendas off that we needed more time to do. So I'll take a vote on the approval of the agenda, or excuse me, not a vote, but a motion.
Moved. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on the agenda? All right, all those in favor, go ahead and cast your vote now.
I'm not able to join,
That's okay.
so
Yep. We'll just go ahead and, all those in favor, raise your hand. Aye.
I
Aye. It passes 5-0. And item number 8, approval of minutes. Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the minutes for the school board meeting and public hearing on May 9th, 2023, school board workshop May 10th, 2023, special school board meeting, selection of superintendent, May 16th, 2023.
So moved.
Ms. Messenger with the motion,
I'll second.
Ms. Foreman with the second. Any discussion on approval of minutes? Seeing none, let's go ahead and cast our votes. Hands up, using aye. All those in favor? Aye. And no opposed, 5-0. Item number 9, student celebrations. Mr. Barber, come on up.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Board Member, Superintendent Saunders. It's really, by the way, congratulations on surviving a week's worth of graduations. I got to be at several of them, and they were amazing events, and that's what the school district is all about, so it was very nice to recognize them last week. Today, we really wanted the opportunity to recognize a couple of our students from our elementary schools. Unfortunately, it's the last week of school and crazy things happen and things pop up, but our 2 students that were going to join us here couldn't be here, but we still want to tell you about what they accomplished. So every spring we have a special elementary school mathematics competition, and to tell us a little bit more, and we'll have photos of the students on the monitors here as we're talking about them. But to tell you more is the district's interim director of elementary curriculum and instruction, Allison Nichols. So, Alice.
Hi, good evening, board members, Superintendent Saunders. So I know I spoke to you about literacy. Now I'm here on the other content area for math. So the Mathematics Superstar Competition has been a long-standing tradition in the district, and it's always sponsored by the American Association of University Women. So they're a wonderful partner with my department to make this happen every year. We did have a pause with COVID for a couple of years, so this is actually the first year in I think 2 or 3 years that we've actually been able to hold the competition again. So on Saturday, April 22nd, we had 4th and 5th grade students from 31 of our schools come to MTC and compete. So each school sends 2 students, so they partner together and they take basically a math test with 24 questions on it. And the questions range in difficulty level from easier, so more on like a 3rd grade level, all the way up through a 6th grade accelerated math level. And then the questions are weighted depending on how difficult they are and how many steps it takes to answer them. And so out of a total of 34 points, we had our top school was Freedom Elementary, and the 2 students were Treson Griffin and Alice Gustick. And out of those 34 points, they scored 33 out of 34 points on this test. So pretty amazing. And so we're just really excited about that. We did have 2nd place was Willis Elementary, 3rd place Palmasola, and then we actually had a 3-way tie for 4th place this year between Anna Maria, Bayshore Elementary, and Gullett Elementary. So, and I'm sorry that the students weren't here, but it's really fun to watch them work together and compete. And I do have Dawn Becker here. She is my elementary math curriculum specialist, and she was key to partnering with AAEW and helping make that competition happen in April. So thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Allison. It was great to recognize them. I hope you got a chance to see them. So if we could call our next guests up. In addition to recognizing our students, we thought it'd be great for this last board meeting of the school year to also recognize some of our teachers. So this group, distinguished group you see standing with me, U.S. Congressman Vern Buchanan selected 8 teachers from Florida's 16th Congressional District to be named or given Congressional Teacher Awards for their outstanding achievements on behalf of our children. Congressman Buchanan established the awards in 2014 to honor educators for the crucial role they play in our community and inspiring other generations. Of the 8 teachers that Congressman Buchanan named from his district, 5 of them were from the school district of Manatee County. I'd like to introduce them to you now. We have Lori Catalani, a 3rd grade teacher at Seabreeze. We have Stephanie Wyshuk, ESE teacher at Ballard Elementary. We have Kathleen or Kat Brown, a math teacher at Braden River Middle. We have Kendall Carrier, a music teacher at Parrish Community High. We have Ann Fleury, a math teacher at Lakewood Ranch High. So I want you to know that each of the award winners received a certificate, and their names will be entered in the congressional record. So a few of them had a few words to say, so we'd like them to come up and speak to us as we get ready to end the school year.
Please do.
Awesome.
Great.
I just want to say thank you to Vern Buchanan and to the school board for this wonderful honor. And I know I don't stand alone. I'm also a proud teacher at Seabreeze Elementary, where I teach with outstanding teachers and a wonderful administration. So it's an honor to be here, and I want to thank you again.
Thank you.
You.
I'd like to thank Vern Buchanan for his leadership and service to our state. I'd like to thank the school board and Superintendent Saunders for their service to the school and for the school district of our county. And also like to thank my administration. They're extremely supportive of the fine arts, and Principal Little's been wonderful. And I'd like to give a shout out to him as well for everybody at Parrish. We're extremely proud of our fine arts. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody as well. I'm finishing my 22nd year at Braden River Middle School. I love my school. I work with really awesome people. I have a really proactive and supportive principal who's here today. Despite we have other things going on. I also have my husband who works at my school and my 5-year-old daughter who just colors everything beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Whole family.
I am the ESE teacher at Ballard Elementary, and I just want to thank everybody here in Manatee County, and I just feel very grateful to work at Ballard Elementary and to go to a school every day where I feel welcomed, and more especially like just working with the children, and so thank you.
I work at Lakewood Ranch. I just am finishing my 26th year of teaching, and I just feel honored to work at Lakewood Ranch. I have a wonderful administration. Mr. Delquest really supports me in everything that I do, and I just want to thank everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you're a principal or a family member or a supporter here of one of these teachers, could you please stand up? Let me introduce a special guest. This is Susanna Morrison. She's part of the congressional office for Congressman Buchanan. So, Susanna, thank you for being here today.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations. It's I was there that night. I think a couple of us were there that night, and it's always great to see our teachers being honored, and I know we've got some really great ones in this district. That's why it's such a special place. So thank you very much. That moves us to item number 11, public comments. I had 2 people sign up for general public comment. First one is Carlene Limley, followed by Becky Canese.
Good evening. It's my first time here.
Welcome.
Thank you. I am from Just for Girls, and I want to say thank you to you, Chairman, members of the board, superintendent. For your friendship is the word I was told to use. For the record, my name is Carlene Lemley. I am the behavioral interventionist at Just for Girls Elementary, and I am here today to speak on the behalf of the intervention portion in what we do at Just for Girls Elementary that makes us special. Our demographics consist of, and in my own words, some 2-parent family, most single moms, a few single dads, and lots of grandmas, grandpas, aunties, uncles, and even family friends that are helping to take care of some of the students that we care for. The situations that the children are in, I think to myself, it doesn't really matter the situation. All I know is that when these children come in to see us, it is then our responsibility to do what we can to help them to overcome the situations that they find themselves in. Of the portion of the responsibilities I feel I have to those children is to be present for them, to hear them, to let them know that someone cares. I'm also there for the parents. I am one of those parents. I am a foster parent. And I have to continually tell my two children why their mom is incarcerated. They've been going through this for about 8 years. So I relate to the students in my school when those grandmas come in and they have no idea what enrollment is. We are there to receive them and to walk them through what enrolling their child is. And then we're also there to aid the students that some have come in from being abused in their previous families. Some have been bullied to an extent that's ridiculously unbelievable and are not even able to cope with being in a classroom. And it takes our entire village in our school to take these children, and our staff is fantastic. The teachers, we have every single adult in the building is a mentor to our students. I have 6. And each week we meet with these children just to walk them through the everyday life. A lot of them are not able to cope in the classrooms. And so part of what we're able to do is, as a smaller school, I can pull that child and take them in my office and walk them through coping skills. This is testing season, and a lot of those students are challenged. They hear tests, they haven't been in schools. They hear tests, and I hear screams. I see children running because they're panicking about a test. And we're able to take them and sit them down and help them to understand it's a test, it's gonna be okay. Some of us get afraid when we hear the word test. But tell you what, go in, take a deep breath, do your best, and when you come out, we'll talk about it, okay? We'll sit down. And so we have to encourage and walk them through, and it's all due to having a small setting where these children are able to come, they're able to have relationships, they're thriving in the area they're in.
Ms. Nunley, that was your 3 minutes.
Oh, thank you.
I apologize.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Becky Canese.
Chairman Choate, members of the board, superintendent, thank you for your leadership. For the record, my name is Becky Canese. I'm the CEO of Just for Girls and the Manatee County Girls Club Foundation. Thank you for your support of our alternative education programs provided under the district's Dropout Prevention Department. Together, we're providing customized opportunities for girls who are failing to thrive in a traditional school setting. You have in front of you our annual report. It includes the demographics and the number of students we serve, along with our board of directors, including our financial statements at page 11. Just for Girls alumni are on the city council. They're leading our chamber. They're working at the hospitals, and they're among your teachers here at the district. Some students come to us, as Carlene said, with learning deficits that we help recover with accelerated learning gains. Our comprehensive comparisons with our whole child approach reflect that Just for Girls met or exceeded the district in 7 of 12 progress measures. We use a 3-prong approach: education, prevention, and intervention. Over more than a half a century of serving girls, we have found that potential is universal, but opportunities are not. We are grateful for this opportunity and for your continuing support in helping local girls achieve their full potential. We have enjoyed a 100% success rate preventing school dropout. Our participants at Just for Girls Middle and Just for Girls Elementary are thriving as a result of your support for this public-private partnership. Just for Girls earned recognition as Nonprofit of the Year from the Tampa Bay Business Journal, along with School Recognition Award for Academic Excellence from the Florida Department of Education. For fiscal stewardship and accountability, Just for Girls earned the GuideStar Platinum Seal of Transparency from our nonprofit industry, Standard of Excellence, and we consistently achieve the highest assurance possible in our independent internal audits. 94% of the funds we receive go directly to programs, with 3% going to fundraising and 3% to administration. The district improves its own efficiency with these public-private partnerships. We can do more together, and together we are stronger. Education, prevention, and intervention are more effective and less expensive than failure, welfare, treatment, incarceration, or school dropout. Thank you again for your leadership and support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes general public comment. So we will move to item number 12, consent items. Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the consent agenda for May 23rd, 2023.
So moved.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second. We can use Granicus now, by the way. We are all logged in.
Oh, it's here. Yeah, we can. Oh, yeah, yeah.
So we have a motion and a second. We do have public comment on some consent items, so I want to get to those. Ms. Heather Felton wants to speak on item number 12.7.
Good evening. My name is Heather Felton, and I'm sorry I'm using my teacher voice. I'm probably a little loud. I teach IB and regular to low-level English at Southeast High School, and I submitted my letter of resignation to both the district and the state last week. I am here tonight in light of two recent developments. First, the selection of a new superintendent, whom I hope is watching. And second, the publication of your Ready to Grow goals of the 2026 strategic plan, which includes nothing about teacher retention, although you do include development of a, and I quote, process to obtain the reasons why an employee leaves the district, unquote. I am here tonight to tell you that as it stands right now, there is nothing the district can do to keep teachers. As fast as you hire new staff, the seasoned ones will walk away. This needs to change. It will take true leadership at the state level and a change in the culture of hate and division that has permeated Florida and this county. The four main issues that led to my own resignation are, first, the removal of excellent award-winning books from libraries and classrooms based on the opinions of strangers. Second, my 9 years in the classroom without longevity means that I and a first-year teacher with my same education level are making equal pay. Third, the attacks on unions that protect teachers and paras' rights in collective bargaining. And finally, the attempts to erase LGBTQ kids and adults, including my own children, from our schools and communities. Now that I'm leaving education, I have decided to dedicate my time to fighting for our students and teachers at the state and local levels. And I am not in this fight alone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Drina Green, talking on item number 1221.
Chairman Choate, members of the board and superintendent, I'd like to thank you for your partnership. Again, for the record, my name is Drina Green, and I am the program administrator for Just for Girls. We all have, as people, innate potential, but we are not all afforded the opportunities for that potential to be maximized or realized. Simply put, potential is universal, but opportunities are not. At Just for Girls, those opportunities are created through quality and effective prevention, intervention, and educational programming. As my colleagues told you, our annual report has a lot of information, and you can see that we serve a high-risk population. And these economic disadvantages put this population at risk, not just for adverse childhood development, but they can likely present other risks academically, physically, socially, emotionally, and mentally. Just for Girls has a simple 1, 2, 3 structure, one mission, that is to help girls reach their full potential, 2 alternative education programs, our elementary program servicing K through 5 and middle 6 through 8. In these wholesome, joyful, and engaging learning communities are where students develop and embrace a sense of belonging and feel significant. We have 3 out-of-school time leadership and learning centers. These leadership and learning centers create opportunities for social and personal development in addition to academic enrichment and support. Creative and performing arts, health and wellness, and STEAM activities are open doors to opportunities that promote interests and aspirations. These positive social experiences are fundamental to resiliency, conflict resolution, positive social experiences, and healthy and supportive relationships. Our leadership and learning centers are open 274 days out of the year from 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., and we are open on select scholastic Saturdays. JFG employs a basic ABC prevention approach that mitigates the risks that I spoke of earlier. A is for academics. Our curriculum and strategies nurture inquisitive minds and encourage critical thinking with an emphasis on grade level reading, ELA, which helps to accelerate progress and recover learning loss and prevent any further summer learning loss. B is for behavior. Positive behavior expectations promote thoughtful decision-making and actions. And then lastly, C is for character. We cultivate character using 5 core values: respect, responsibility, compassion, belief in self, and commitment. So within this 1, 2, 3 service structure and ABC approach, JFG is making the difference in the lives of girls. Prevention, intervention, and education are more effective and less expensive than failure or social welfare. Thank you for helping create a brighter future for our local girls.
Thank you.
And Ms. Kness, did you want to come up again? Ms. Kness, did you want to come up again and speak? No? Okay, all right. Thank you. So that concludes the consent items, comments. We have a motion and a second. Sorry, let me get back to my Granicus. We had a motion and a second. Correct?
Yeah.
I just don't see it on the screen. So we're ready to vote.
I'll click again.
There it goes.
There.
I think I seconded it before, so.
So let's go ahead and vote. It looks like it's frozen, maybe. We'll go ahead and vote. We'll go ahead and vote manually. All those approving the consent items, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. That passes 5-0. Moving on to item number 15, new business. Superintendent Saunders?
Yes, I recommend the approval of adoption of categorical flexible spending resolution 2023-03.
And can you just give a brief synopsis of what this is?
Certainly. We have a number of categorical items that are earmarked for only certain allowable expenses. At the end of the year, some of those such categoricals are allowed to be moved over into the general fund once you've met the expectation of spend. This next year, that situation will not apply because the state went ahead and removed the categoricals and put them into the base student allocation. But for this year, that same rule does apply. It's in the neighborhood of roughly $2.7 million. And these categories are textbook or instructional materials, and as well as SAI instructional supports. So once we've gone through the year and used the money as required, what's left we can roll over the amount, but you have to go to the board for that procedure. That amount is roughly $2.7 million.
Perfect.
So moved.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
I'll try to push it and see what
We
happens.
have a second. Any discussion?
Yes. I hit the button, but I don't know if it's working or not.
It's not.
I just wanted to highlight kind of something that the superintendent just said, and that she indicated that in this following year, this coming up year, that some of the categoricals are being rolled into the base student allocation, or the BSA. And what we need to be aware of is that when we see, oh, look, the BSA has gone up by this amount of dollars, we need to be aware that that does not actually equate to more dollars for us to spend in our schools for our students, because they're just taking it from one pot and they're moving it over to the other pot. And what often happens is that they will say, well, look, it's $300 more in the base student allocation. Well, that is true. But then if you moved those $300 from this other pot and you put it here, it does not equate to more dollars. And so one of the things that they did do this year is they did get rid of several different categoricals. And that could lead to more flexibility for this board if those items are still properly funded. But what I've seen is that sometimes when they're removed from that category and put in the base student allocation, the funding does not necessarily support what we still legally have to do as a board and as the district has to do. So I just wanted to highlight that one thing that was stated so that we all have an understanding of what, when that comes and they say, oh, it's this, we put in this much or that much, because I've already seen it. I've seen those things said. But understanding how much is that really? How much of a difference is it really is important for us to understand as a board and as a community too. But just at least for us to understand. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think to that, when we get into our budget talks, I think we'll discuss a little bit what that increase was in the base and with those categoricals, how it affected, because I completely agree.
One more thing, just to kind of, in years past, and I don't think it's been brought up this year so far because things haven't been signed or whatever, and we usually do it after July 1. But in years past, we've had our lobbyists come before us and kind of give a legislative update. And I think the board would benefit from that because they will go over all of those things. Well, yeah, it's, you got this much more, but really it's really only this much more, even though it's saying this, you know what I mean? So
we'll get him in as soon as we can.
yeah, and they don't like to do it right away because they don't know how things are going to fall out. You know what I mean? If the governor's going to sign everything, you know what I mean? So it always seems to take a little bit of time, but I do think that that's a beneficial conversation for us, but also the community. I think the community needs to hear, here are the changes that we must legally abide to. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tatum, you were lit to speak?
Yes, Ms. Saunders, could you help me understand exactly what supplemental academic instruction funds are? I'm just curious.
Absolutely, that's beyond the general core. So generally, some items that we spend with that categorical are intensive reading teachers, intensive math teachers, reading paraprofessionals. So it's just as kind of indicated, supplemental, it's above and beyond the basic core curriculum. So what we tend to do is that's how we're able to fund and supply those tier 2 and tier 3 interventions within the school system.
Okay, so overall what we're doing here is we've decided we basically have some extra money that was in a pot of money, and legally we're allowed to kind of take that and retarget the money towards the needs that we have.
Yes, sir.
That's good. I'm glad to see the government is allowing us to do that.
At the end of the year, what they allow is anything, because categorical, you can only spend in that way.
Right.
So at the end of the year, if you have any monies unspent, you can go to the board, roll those into the general fund, where you have discretion to spend as the board deems needed. And it's not just in that earmarked area. What I think they've decided to do for this next year is, because this is the practice that you have to put this step in play with that leftover money, is they've just removed the restriction of the category, put it in your general allocation, but you're still required to buy the necessary textbooks. You're still required to offer those interventions, so it's not a complete net improvement of discretionary money, but it doesn't require you coming for this step at the end of the year.
So after your 34 years of experience, as you're on your way out the door here, and Ms. Messenger brought up some concerns, but is there anything you'd like to talk to us about? Have you seen over the 34 years an ebb and flow and more control from the state, less control from the state, and maybe you've seen situations where a board was given more control of their own funds, but then they went off the rails and they didn't keep a good eye on things? I'm just curious if you have any, advice or counsel for the board. Maybe you've seen this over the years.
I can tell you that this change is negligible. I mean, it's not adding more money. It prevents a step that you have to take for the spending. It's not adding to your pot of money. It's not taking away from your pot of money. I do believe the board knows the parameters and the requirements of the fund balance and so forth. So I don't see a problem with that decision. Instead of restricting, you still have to buy the necessary materials. So I think it's good that they moved it over there. We just need to make sure that it's messaged properly, that we really see what the net difference is, if there is any differential in that BSA when we've added and deleted all the extras and the requirements.
So maybe we'll see this during the budget process.
You will.
And Ms. Sellers is here too, but before it was like, okay, you got to buy a bunch of books, and so you have this account and there's some money in there. Now that account doesn't exist anymore. It's just all in some other big account. And what kind of internal controls will we put in place to make sure that we actually do, even though we don't have a separate box for this money, that somehow it's set aside, or we know we need to spend this amount of money on curriculum or instructional material, or
the state drives that by legislation on the adoption years of textbooks. So whether you have a separate fund or not, you still have to buy the textbooks.
Right.
So this next year will be a social studies adoption. So we will be required to spend the money, whether it's in a separate earmark category or you're buying it out of the general fund, it doesn't matter. You still have to do it every time they have an adoption year. You still have to purchase the books by law. So
I guess what I'm asking is, before the money went into that account and was sitting there and we knew we had it and it was earmarked for this, now it's just in the general fund. So how do we keep track of the fact that we're not going to start spending money out of the general fund, and then we get down to instructional materials and we go, oh, we don't have enough money for instructional materials because we started spending out of the general fund, where previously we had this box and we knew there was a box of money and we had it. I'm sure it'll happen, and I'm for more flexibility. I like the idea that we have more freedom, but I'm just curious about the internal controls that we'll be able to use now that we have more flexibility.
well, two things. They never provide all the needed monies for all the textbook adoptions that you have to do anyway.
Okay.
So you're still pulling money out of the general fund in many cases to ensure the proper textbook material purchase. Secondly, in statute, every year you'll know in advance of what adoption you have to do, and by law you have to buy them. So if you see that cycle of textbook adoption and you don't see a process coming to you to order textbooks, that should be a red flag. By law, you must purchase the current textbooks within the adopted year. So it's a practice that's in place by statute. So I think once you go through that first budget cycle, you will see, and you never have enough earmarked money in the categories anyway. We have a category of transportation. It never covers all the transportation, but you still have to provide it based on the law. Safety and security, you never have enough money in that bucket to fund all the safety and security, but you still have to have resource officers or guardians at every school. So I think when we show you that cycle in that workshop in June, you will see how it's done and how decisions are made even if there's not enough money for those earmarked areas. You don't have the discretion of not buying books on an adopted year.
And so even though the superintendent is ultimately responsible for everything that goes on in the operations of the district, as are we for that matter, but on a daily basis, so is Ms. Sellers and her office the ones who are the watchers of the money, so to speak, to make sure that there's enough money to pay, especially now that these boxes are not taken away and we don't have like little savings accounts for all these, for transportation or for curriculum. That I'm just curious,
We'll still have line items. Like it'll still be marked. It'll still be earmarked. It just won't necessarily be in its own box. So I do understand your concern and your question, but it's still going to be the same amount of allotted money is still going to be earmarked inside the chart strings inside of that.
Right, so the budget, even though she's going away,
Mhm.
the budgeting and the chart strings that track those type of expenditures will still stay there.
Can you come?
Yeah, you can come up to the,
speak into the microphone?
yeah, just that way we can get you. So you yelling to us.
So as far as the budgeting process go, we still track those categories. Those were in programs. So we still know what type of money, even though it's not in its own so-called pot, and it's still put up, the statutes dictate what's still supposed to get spent within those. We keep track of that by program. So even though it's technically not in the box, it's still in a box. It's just they're not calling it categoricals anymore. So we won't have to go through this procedure of coming to the board and say, hey, this category, we're going to move this money over to here now because we've already spent it here. So we won't have to do that part anymore because it's now all in the BSA. But we are still going to need to keep track just as we were, as if they had been in their own categorical buckets. So it'll still stay. It's just not going to be looking like that. But we'll probably forevermore still be calling it the categorical item of
The curriculum team will tell the finance department, this is how much our adoption of textbooks are going to cost this next year. And that's one of the first things that are earmarked. When we do the allocation presentation Friday, that's the first thing that we will build in the budget are the people that you have to employ to run the organization. Then the next thing are the fuel and the buses and the books. All the basic elements are presented to the finance department, and that's how they build that budget.
Okay. Just having worked in large bureaucracies, this will be a bureaucratic process change. That's all I'm trying to give myself a warm fuzzy that, we'll have to change some type of bureaucratic processes. The boxes are different. Software, I assume, might be programmed a little differently and just to make sure that we're on top of that so that we don't get caught, with a $1.2 billion budget and then we had this one bureaucratic process and we were tracking things because they were in boxes and now we got a new process and we weren't tracking as well as we should have and then we get 8 months into the year and we've spent a little bit too much money over here and we don't have the money we need over there because we have our processes down now, right? And this is a new way of doing it.
Textbooks are ordered right out of the gate. It's one of the they have to be ordered in the summer, so it's one of the first expenditures you have for the next school year. So you're not going to have an issue where you didn't use the money in there to buy the books because you have to have them in place for the start of the school year. So they are purchased at this time of year. So we would always have to go to the finance department and say, we've got a math adoption and a reading adoption. It's going to cost $10 million. She may say, but the state this year only gave us $8 million. Great. You have to move $2 million out of the general fund to buy the books. So the procedure will be the same, really, because we have to go to finance and say, this is that cost. It's one of those non-negotiable costs. It's one of the first things that you allocate for, whether it's a categorical or not, you by law have to buy the current materials.
Okay, I mean, this is a good
It'll
discussion.
feel the same.
Mhm.
It'll feel the same even though they didn't send it out calling it that. But still, you'll still find it within the statutes that they're still requiring the money to go for the textbooks. They're still going to require it to go to the SAI. Is not the same name anymore. It's now formally known as SAI. I still need to learn the other one. But but we'll still be required to put that. Those will still get budgeted for those expenditures. And in most of those cases,
the general fund ends up making up, I think in that initial presentation we did back in January, where the general fund ends up paying more than even that was supposed to be required. So and the tracking for that will continue the same, even though they haven't called it a categorical item anymore.
Okay, it was a good discussion. I just know that, bureaucracies have Process A. People have been working with Process A for a long time, and now the process is changed, and there's Process B, and people have to learn Process B and work with Process B, and there's a lot of spreadsheets in the background that were geared towards Process A, but now there's Process B, and just making sure that we're on top of that, and that's why we pay you the big bucks, so to speak. But I'm just reassuring myself, and maybe even some of our fellow board members, that we're on top of it, and we don't, something won't slip through the cracks where we get 9 months into the year and we say, ooh, gee, we forgot about this bill we have to pay, because we used to have this bucket of money over here we had set aside, and the state dumped money in there automatically. We forgot about that little bucket. Now we got to go. But it sounds like you're on top of it, so, okay, great.
Thank you.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Ms. Spray was lit up to speak.
Do you want to go ahead of me?
Oh, go ahead if you want to.
You can go
Well, I
ahead.
just want to reassure you, there are processes in place, internal controls, whether it's a categorical or it's a line item in a general fund. The process is the same, and it's being tracked, and, so
Yeah.
you don't need, we don't.
I think when you go through a budget process, you've
Yeah.
never been through one, so you'll, yeah, good. That'll be like 2 weeks, or starting Friday.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Ms. Spray?
I just wanted to assure myself too, when I'm reading this resolution, it says in here, providing the district school board the authority to exercise flexibility to expend funds allocated to the school district from funds received for class size reduction, federally connected students, grant guaranteed allocation. So the key word for me in this resolution is gives the school board the flexibility. To me, that is saying we are going to have a lot more flexibility, I have to say, that we can use money in this. We're going to have to get new acronyms, I'm guessing. Oh my goodness, another list of acronyms. So to me, I see this as a positive, that we're not handcuffed sometimes, that we have the flexibility if there's a need that we can spend from the general fund. And to Ms. Messenger's point, the base student allocation looks like it went up, but you got to look at the category, it went down. So it's okay. Are we getting more money or are we not? You almost got to look at like a checking account, a savings account, you're transferring funds from the other. That's all it is to me, is what I could read in that. So that's where I see it. I think the process of how we spend is in place. But again, you have a new board, and we're looking at and learning that as well. So, but that provides flexibility to expend selected categorical funds and approved an amendment to the district of the operating budget. That was a key statement for me. So made me understand what we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Messenger?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on something Mr. Tatum had said, and just so that there's a better understanding, categoricals come and go. They have come and gone before. I can name some, like there was one that was for technology, now it's gone. And then they added the one where they're gonna give teachers monies for supplies. Now they're removing that one. They come and go. That's just the will of the legislature. And the district has always had to change every year with however the legislature changes those categoricals. And that they, like I said, they come and go every year. This year they're removing several and putting the money in. It doesn't mean that next year they might not add some more. I've seen that side of it too. So, they come and go. That's all I just wanted to say about that. Thank you.
I don't see anyone else lit up to speak. So we've got a motion, we've got a second. Mr. Tatum, will you?
I take mine. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
perfect. Thank you. So we had a motion and we had a second. Let's go ahead and cast our vote on the approval. for the adoption of categorical flexible spending resolution 2023-03. And that passes 5-0. Moving us to new business, non-consent items number 2, Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval to renew the substitute teaching employment services for the 2023-2024 school year, 21-0046-RG, continued procurement with vendor, estimated in the amount of $4,250,000.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. I would like just to, before jumping into a couple of speakers that are up, tell us a little about how we've obviously used this system before for substitutes. How is the system doing with filling the needs of substitutes? You know, are we seeing that the system's working? Like, are they finding substitutes for the openings that we have?
I can tell you, and we've used this system since COVID, and thank goodness, we're sitting at about an 80% fill rate right now. I can tell you when we were running it within HR ourselves, we were not at that rate by far. They are able to go and dedicate their resources for recruiting and really hit the pavement. Actually, we end up hiring some full-time staff from their pool of substitutes. So it really has helped us not only in that temporary situation, but also as permanent situation. We've increased the amount this year from last year for 2 reasons. Number one, we've increased our student enrollment from this year to next year. So if you have more students, you have to hire more teachers. Therefore, you have to make sure that you've got enough coverage for that. We also needed to make sure, remember that we have to be at 80% teachers with the training of the mental health capacity. And that is 80% of our staff have to be trained every year. So we met that requirement this year. It's in statute that goes into effect by the end of this school year. But some of those people we've trained will be retiring. We will be hiring new people. So that is a 5-hour training that you have to do in person. So we needed to also make sure that we had enough in there to ensure that we're not missing that requirement for that statutory training. So that's why the amount is about $500,000 more this next year than this past year.
Thank you. And just second thing I was going to mention is, to me, this is one of those, we had this discussion on a last item, maybe it was not last meeting on the 16th, but the one earlier this month, that, we may not spend that 4.25, right? You look at year to date, this year we're at 3.7. There's only a couple days left, so it may not even go that much higher than what it is, but it gives you the flexibility. You don't have to come back to us and say, right, hey, we need another couple $100,000. So it makes sure it's already built into the budget for next year. So we're not having something like we did with COVID where we didn't expect all those expenses during that COVID time because we've never been through COVID. So thank you. I do have a couple people lit to speak. Ms. Spray?
Okay, thank you. I was looking at the data from this today with Mr. Wagner, and I wanted to understand it more. I wanted to understand the process, what it is, how many people do we use, and so forth. Because I do know earlier this year we approved a pretty good lump of money for all of the teachers to be compliant with that 5-hour class. So this is not a part of that allocation that we approved last time. This is for next year's subs. And I know a few substitute teachers that goes through this and they love it. And, if we can outsource some of the things like this, I think it's a good thing. Initially, when this came up, I know there was a big thing. I watched it. I was actually here, I believe, on that side of the wall. And there was a big, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But I think over time, it has paid for itself, in my opinion. based on filling the need for our students. And that's what it's about. We have to have somebody in a classroom. And sometimes emergencies come up and you got to get a teacher pretty quick. And some of these teachers are actually, just call me anytime, I'll be there when you need, and get up and they're out the door within 30 minutes to cover a class. And that's a personal story from a substitute. So yeah, it looks like a big dollar if you throw in how many subs we use per year and divide this money up. It's basically what we would pay for a regular teacher. So I think it's a good thing that we have found this company. I saw the map of where they are across the states, and I just, after seeing the data and talking to a few subs, I'm more in support of it now than I was before, so. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Tatum.
Yes, Ms. Saunders, just for educating the public on people that might be fascinated by this topic, but I think it is important to understand. We use a private contracting company. We've kind of outsourced this.
Yes.
And so, and we basically provide them that amount of money, I assume, that we have in here is basically the bill that they charge us to run this program. And do they actually pay our substitutes out of that money and stuff?
They don't necessarily get the full amount,
Okay.
but that's what the board has authorized up to. We only pay them for what we fill with a substitute.
Okay.
So it's based on need, and they bill us for everyone that they're putting into a classroom, and that's the pot of money that they're paid for. But yes, it is a private company that we outsource our subs with.
And are these the substitutes that we have, are they employees of this company, or are they our employees?
They're employees of the company. They're not our employee. They're not on our insurance, our benefit. So they're their employee. They handle all the requirements to be employed through them, the testing, the screening, et cetera, and then they pay their wage.
Okay. And I know that 2 years ago, there was a little blip at the end of the year where we didn't have enough money to cover substitutes, and late in the year we had to come back. What controls did we put in place to kind of try and make sure that that doesn't happen again?
Well, Mr. Wagner did a really great job of tracking that. We did put some different measures in place, and working with the company, they provide a report weekly. So we know how many are being filled weekly. We track it by school. And every month, Mr. Wagner provides me a summary of how much money is still left available for their spend, and how many days of the school year are left. So as long as we have more days left in the school year, and money than that, then we know we're in good standing. So he really put some tight controls in that HR department after we saw it was a new company, it was a new system. They had never been experienced with having to operate that way. So we've never had a problem since then.
Okay, great. And then the last point, I wanted to help make sure I understand correctly how this works, and I know some teachers have asked me about this too, is let's say that there's a substitute that's needed in a science class for a day. This company doesn't have any available substitutes, so they have to pull a teacher from inside the school to go and cover that class. We actually reimburse the school, when I say we, maybe that's correct, the school system fund, general fund, reimburses that school for what it would have cost if there had been a private contracted substitute to come into the school. Is that correct?
We give them an agreed upon amount. Now, that's not out of this sub money because it's a different pot. That's just for this contractor based on what they're providing.
Okay.
So it does come out, we do it quarterly, and then those funds are divvied up to the people covering those classes.
Okay.
So, yes, so if you're covering just one period, that teacher gets a piece of that. If you're covering all day, then that teacher is compensated for such.
And that's good to know, because that was the concern from some of the teachers, that this was extra duty that they were being asked to accomplish. And the one teacher thought there wasn't any compensation for it, but now that I hear that this program is in place, apparently there is.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, great. That was a good explanation. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
All right, that is all the speakers up for that item. So let's go ahead and vote on the approval to renew the substitute teaching employment services for 23-24 school year. Estimated amount of $4.25 million, and that passes 5-0. Moving on to new business items with no superintendent recommendation. Item number 1, approval of travel expense associated with the school board members' attendance at the FSFOA conference June 13th through 16th, 2023 at the Hilton St. Petersburg Bayfront, St. Pete, Florida, not to exceed $750. And I believe that is the Florida School Finance Officers Association. And I believe that's Ms. Foreman wanting to go to that one. Need a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Ms. Messenger, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Spray. Any discussion on item number 1 under new business?
Just to let you all know, it's going to be held in St. Petersburg, so I won't be spending the night. I'm just going to drive up every day, so
Okay, thanks.
keeping the cost.
And we'd love to report. Come back, what you learned.
Absolutely.
Like always. You always do a good job at that. Thank you. So let's go ahead and vote on item number 16.1. Approval of travel expense, school board member to FSFOA. Passes 5-0. Moving on to item number 16 under new business. Approval of travel expense associated with school board members' attendance at the FSBA FADS annual summer conference, June 7th to the 9th, 2023, Grand Hyatt Tampa Bay, not to exceed $3,700. We've got a motion
I'll second.
and a second. This is our second FSBA to summer one, so located in that Grand Hyatt, that's always there. I know I'm wanting to go. I believe Mr. Tatum and Miss Foreman. So we'll come back with some stuff to share, I'm sure, with that. Let's go ahead and vote on, unless I don't see anybody's lit to speak.
I was just gonna say, I had a family conflict, is why I'm not going to this. So I didn't schedule it, and then the thing was canceled, so I appreciate the report that you'll come
Yeah.
back and give us.
We will. We
So.
will. That was Miss Spray.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and vote with that. And that passes 5-0. Number 3, acceptance of the resignation of Audit Committee Chairperson Dr. Susan Agruso, effective July 1, 2023.
So moved.
I won't
I was gonna say we have no's on this one. So we've got a motion.
Fails for lack of second.
Sorry.
Does she become an indentured servant or something? if
Right.
we don't pass this?
Yeah, she's here forever.
Okay.
So we've got a motion.
All right.
No one wants to
Somebody's gotta do
second.
a
I'll second,
There you go.
just because I'm doing what you want. So we've got a motion, we got a second. Any discussion on that? Mr. Tatum?
Yes, maybe Ms. Foreman would be the best person to talk to us about the service that Dr. Grusso has offered to the school system. She was okay, slightly better than average. Yeah. Okay, good to know.
Dr. Grusso has been on the audit committee for 8 years, 7, 8 years, and she's more than served her time. She came in with her great experience as a superintendent, and she does, she's given so much insight along the way, and always the voice of reason, always well thought out, always prepared her, and she served as chair for probably 4 years, maybe, sounds about right, which is not easy, and she's been chair through some difficult times, an era where we didn't reconcile bank accounts, where the ERP system was being implemented, some really difficult times, and she handled it beautifully, and we're going to miss her so very, very much, and thank you for your service.
And it was all volunteer service too.
All volunteer. Yeah, and believe me, there were a lot of hours, a lot of hours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Grusa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and vote on the acceptance of the resignation of Audit Committee Chairperson, Dr. Susan Agruso, effective July 1st, 2023. And that passes 5-0. Moving on to some workshop items. We did schedule out through July. One thing that I would like to just point out, Ms. Foreman asked about this earlier, but once we know Dr. Wysong is on board and moving forward, I would like to schedule a master board training with him and get that on the calendar. So that's something that I'm not saying that's going to happen in July. I don't know what the schedule's like, but I'd like to get that scheduled as soon as possible. So we may be able to see some stuff in July, possibly. So we'll see how that goes. But I do want to make sure that because you see that on July 27th down there, board communication / master board training. So that is something that I would like to jump into and schedule right away once he's active and his contract signed and we know we're good to go July 1. So other than that, we had so we've got up through obviously July with those things down at the bottom still to be determined. I believe Ms. Cox, has everybody turned in their ranking and that sort of thing from the last ones? I did in my last board briefing. So we'll get that once everything's ranked for those bottom parts. We'll get those put on. I would say for me personally, the master board training is not necessarily workshop. I mean, last time we did it, it wasn't a workshop item. It was, we did it on our own. But I know that's on there, so I want to make sure I address that. Anybody who'd like to add something to, yes, Ms. Foreman.
Before Dr. Agruso's resignation becomes effective, which is June 30th, she needs to deliver an audit committee report from their last meeting.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out where that can fit
Can we
in.
just say June 29th with the budget presentation, general funds?
Absolutely.
Does it work for?
Does that work for you, June 29th? June 29th, for you to give that presentation, is that okay?
We can
That'd be a
put
Friday.
that at the beginning.
Yeah.
We can put her first on the.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that, Ms. Foreman. Ms. Spray, you were lit to speak?
Yeah, on the July 27th, where we have the 2024 legislative priorities, I think we could actually include legislative update.
Sure. Yeah, we can check with
That way we could put it all in
Mr.
one.
Foster. Yeah.
It just depends on lobbyists.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Right, I mean, I think that would be great that they're gonna have them there,
we
put
could
on
ask
our priorities and have them give us that update as well, because it will be after the July 1st when a lot of this stuff goes in effect. So that will be after that. So I think we need to just tail on the end of that workshop item / legislative update.
Perfect. I like it.
You like it? Okay.
Alrighty. We don't have any more public comment. Let's move to updates from Mr. Dye, legal updates.
Just a couple things. I'll be forwarding the social media attorney fee agreement to a future board meeting for approval. It's the same firm that we're using on the Jewel case, and it's a very similar agreement. I've reviewed it, can approve it. The North River School site that we're under contract, that's scheduled to close in June, just so you know, if everything goes well. They have to put the infrastructure in around the school, so we're kind of waiting. That's what will determine that closes. So that's happening soon. That's why I bring it up. With regard to the new superintendent contract process, it's been a challenging time of the month with your graduations last week, and then they're doing all their graduations this week. And so he's very involved with that as well. But I prepared a contract, draft contract, have submitted it to him and his attorney. I've had an initial discussion with his attorney, anticipating a counter offer back from them probably tomorrow. And if we can work through everything and get a contract that I think's ready for the board to review, it looks like we can probably add a special meeting to your June 2nd workshop. So we just have to advertise it this Friday. So I'll keep you updated on that, and I have a meeting tomorrow with his attorney. They're going to be discussing it this evening. So hopefully it'll go pretty quickly.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you.
That's it.
Any questions for Mr. Dye? I think we do. Mr. Tatum.
Yes, just real quick, Mr. Dye, the North River School property, who is the company that we are working with? Is that Neal Properties?
Yes.
on that one? Okay.
Yes, they use the entity called Havel Farms.
Okay.
But it's Neal Homes.
Okay, and
Yeah.
that's like a sub-company under
Yeah,
the...
that holds the property for them.
It holds the property for them. And so it actually, they've put in the infrastructure and it will close by, so their infrastructure is in, that's part of the deal. We close only after they put the infrastructure in, or how does that work?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And that's how most of our land purchases are done these days, so that the school district doesn't have to build the infrastructure.
Okay.
Mainly with these developer-type schools that are going in where larger areas are being developed at one time.
Okay.
Okay.
Great, thank you. That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wagner, with operations.
Good evening, Chair Choke, members of the board, Superintendent Saunders. Just 3 items tonight. Number 1, so we do this every year. This is the annual free food service meals. They're going to start on May 30th. If you're under 18 years of age, then you're eligible. There's over 100 locations statewide. There's many locations here in Manatee County, including our summer programs, community summer sites. There's 15 mobile community locations right here local, including Lincoln Park, Bradenton Village, Turner Chapel, 13th Avenue Community Center, Pride Park, and Manatee Trailer Park. So people can find out about it at manateeschoolfood.net. There's different meals based on the location. Schools have breakfast and lunch. Mobile sites have lunch. There is no dinner. But it's something that is going on statewide across the whole state of Florida, and we're just trying to get the word out. Regina Toma, our food service director, works really hard with her team to make sure we have plenty of meals available for people who walk up to take advantage of that. Number 2, our last job fair was May 16th. For teachers, we had it from 2 to 5 at the Wakeland Support Center. You know, we had 103 applicants show up, 103 people show up for that. So that was a big deal. We made 15 offers at that program, and we still have offers coming in once people get their paperwork done. Interesting enough, so we have job fairs through the month of June. June 1st, June 8th, June 14th, June 22nd, and June 28th. So we'll get the word out. It's on our website right now. If people are interested, all our job fairs are posted on the manateeschools.net website. So we have jobs available. And number 3, while high school graduation is over, we appreciate everybody participating. I do want to give you a couple dates. June 26th is our law enforcement graduation. It's at Parish Community High School. Definitely worth going if you're available. 6 p.m. June 28th, we have our fire commencement at MTC East Campus. And our big graduation at our main campus is June 29th. It's our spring graduation, and it's actually, we have a morning and an evening graduation to get all the students through right there on campus. So we appreciate all your support for operations. Thank you.
Mr. Wagner, we do have a question. Mr. Tatum?
Yes, I have a quick question. The meal program, always good to see you. The meal program that you were talking about, who funds that? Is that a state funding? Are we funding that?
Yep, no, that's a federal funds, just for our federal food service budget pays for that. It pays for it across the whole state of Florida. So there's no cost to our school system nor the people walking up to receive their meals.
And we're just providing a location for this program to operate in, is that?
We provide we provide the food. We pay our employees. We have the mobile vans which are out, and so it's a big operation. So we make the meals every night before and in the morning, so we're ready to go. So it's really something to see in action. So they really mobilize a lot of people.
What day is it? Is that all summer, you said?
Yep, it doesn't start till May 30th. So, but it's all summer long, and all the locations. And if you go to that website, manateeschoolfood.net, has a little map, and you can actually figure out which site's closest to the home that you're interested in. So,
is it a federal grant or?
Yeah, no, it's federal food service pays for it. Okay. So the fed doesn't pay for it.
Thank you very much.
All right, instructional update. Ms. Simon.
Yeah, school's not over yet. We have exams for secondary students. This week, we are half days for that reason. Elementary, have the luxury of not having exams, but if you're a secondary student, you're really still receiving instruction until the last minute. So be mindful of that. Friday, for our new board members, I hope to see you at Manatee Way at 6 a.m. to say a fine farewell to our bus drivers for the last day of school. It's a wonderful tradition here. First day and the last day. We always look forward to that. And so Friday will be the last day. And our teacher's last day is May the 30th. So we're almost coming to a close of a school year. And for superintendent update, I would just like to recognize Parish Community High School for all of the accolades they have received on their Frozen presentation. I know I mentioned before I went, it was really amazing the talent that we have from our instructors on down to our students. But they had 6 awards and 10 nominations from the Broadway Star of the Future program. So it really was quite impressive. And remember, we are closed. The district is closed for the 29th of May for Memorial Day. And those are my updates. Chair Choate.
Thank you. Let's go to board comments. Tatum, Foreman, Ms. Messenger, Ms. Spray, and myself. So, Mr. Tatum.
Okay, 3 quick comments here. Number 1, I was fortunate enough to be able to attend all 7 graduations, and it went off like clockwork. Most of the high schools, I think, had 400 students or so in less than an hour. That was impressive. That was like militarily impressive. So that was impressive. And then I think Lakewood Ranch had 600, and they were under an hour and a half. So that's awesome. I hope we keep that up. All right, good. But that was great. It was really impressive. And like I said, off like clockwork. And I was trying to get some flybys, but apparently I don't have as much pull in the Air Force as I used to have. But I'll work on that for next year. So, okay. The second thought was, I've talked about this before, safety, safety, safety. I know unfortunately we had a student pass away, I believe at Palmetto Elementary, due to a car accident, and nothing really maybe to do with high school graduation and parties and stuff, but just keeping that on the front of our mind as we go into summer. I know in the Air Force Week they called it the Summer of Safety, and you would, on the weekend before Memorial Day, the commander would bring everybody in and he'd say, safety, safety, safety. So that's what I'm doing, safety, safety, safety. If you're watching, safety, safety, safety. You know, just think about it, and you know, if you say something like "hold my beer and watch this," that's bad. Don't do that, right? You know, just keep boating, riding, biking, even walking, as we saw, running. Be safe, and we want everybody to come back after the summer. And then finally, to go along with that, to some degree, I was actually up in Palmetto, I think it was yesterday. Just happened to be up in the area for a meeting that I was going to, and driving around, and there was a park up there by Howie's Pizza or whatever, and it was all taped off with police tape. I thought, what happened? And then I guess in the news there was a young boy that was shot, maybe some gang activity or something going on up there. So I heard a quote one time a long time ago, and I don't remember who said it, but it was on the radio, and it said our worst friends are those who are more concerned about our comfort than our character and our well-being. And what that really means is it's that see something, say something. If we know that there are people involved in nefarious and bad activity, you know, these students and stuff like that, say something to a teacher, say something to a counselor. Better to have a person potentially have a little bit of trouble in their life now than a lot of trouble in their life later. Whereas if we would have really cared about their well-being and their character instead of their comfort, you know, I don't want my friend Joe to get in trouble now. Well, you know, I know he's bringing marijuana to school. Okay. Well, I'll talk to Joe about it first, but then, you know, if that's still going on, it's better to maybe to Joe have a little bit of consequences now until it moves on to something bigger where he gets involved with gangs or higher level drugs or something like that. So I guess I'm kind of sermonizing a little bit, but I know from personal experience, both in the Air Force and in my personal life, that if we're more concerned about people's comfort than their character and their well-being, a little bit of pain now, it's kind of like the Midas muffler commercials back in the day. You can pay me now or you can pay me later. So I would encourage us all to know that a little bit of pain now will often save a lot of pain later for somebody. And that's what really friendship would be about, working on people's character instead of being more worried about their comfort. So that's my little philosophizing for the day, and that was the third point I have. And those are the end of my comments. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Yep.
Ms. Gorman.
I want to congratulate the students who have graduated. I too, as did Miss Bray. We, the three of us, attended all 7 graduations, and I commend you. Yeah, what you're shuddering, you know, because it was hot. It was hot, but it was good. It was very good, and it was a pleasure to see students and their families be so excited and so happy, you know, as opposed to a couple years ago. I think it was relief during the COVID years. So it was great. The teacher who spoke tonight, she put words to a lot of the things going through my head, you know, in regards to what it's like for teachers. And I know it does, a lot of this comes down from the state, and I would encourage our legislators to think about some of the consequences of these bills. Some of the consequences are unintended, and I think we've entered a very, and I don't put it all on the state legislature, but we've entered some really difficult times for teachers, for principals, assistant principals, and I thank everyone who has stuck with it and is willing to see this through. I'm hopeful we will see a pendulum swing the other way, but it breaks my heart to hear a teacher say that they give up. You know. The other thing I wanted to mention is the Dive Into Reading program is this summer. Starts in June, for 4 weeks in June. If anyone wants to contribute to reading with kids and try and eliminate some of the summer slide, they can go to the Anna Maria Oyster Bar website. There's a link to sign up, and it's either a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday from 8:30 to 10:30. I think it's June 2nd to the 29th, and there are locations, 6 locations across the county. Some of the Anna Maria Oyster Bars, but also thank you to Gecko's Pub and Grill, O'Brick's Irish Pub, and Central Cafe. Those are also other locations where you can sign up for. So, thank you to everyone in the district for another successful school year, and lots of ups and downs, and but I think we're in a pretty good place. We have seen some really good things this year, and so have a great summer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Messenger.
I think everything I was going to say has kind of already been said. I didn't make it to all the graduations, but I made it to the majority of them. And it's always a joyful time, so I always really enjoy that. It's always nice. But really, to kind of just reiterate what Mrs. Foreman had said is just, this is our last meeting before, there's a break for summer, and I really just want to take the time to thank the employees. I know that it's not an easy job. We talked about being a teacher, but there's a lot of other jobs that are not easy, and so you are appreciated, and thank you. That's all I really have to say is just thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spray.
My little school bus is here to recognize the valuable asset we have in our school bus drivers. The Manatee Center is not far from where I live, so bus drivers, if you see some lady waving at you, it's me, because I'm waving at every bus driver that goes by. With our agenda today, we approved reassignments, resignations. I always go through that because I want to recognize those who have served our community in our district. We had 5 who retired with 30-plus years of service to the district. We had 5 with 20-plus years of service and 3 with 10-plus. And then there's others, if you added them all up, there's probably another 5 with 20 years. So I just wanted to say, I always pull that, and I always look at how many years they served. I mean, one's 36 years. That's a long time. And even one is I think a bus driver that served a number of years, I think 35 years. Food service, 34 years. I mean, head custodian, 31 years. Again, teachers are hard, dealing with children are hard, but these people have committed and done their duty in serving our district. So I wanted to say a shout out to all of you for all of the hard work you've done for our many generations of students that have gone through your classroom and are probably still in our community, many of them, and or you have probably brought along a teacher or two right behind you. So I wanted to do a shout out for that and the bus drivers. And I too, yes, I did attend all 7 graduations, and I was adamant at getting a program for each one of them because it's important to me to look at that and look at those names. Who knows, I can look at this book one day and say, oh my gosh, there's the next governor. You never know. So it's kind of cool to keep those, in my opinion. Maybe I'm quirky about that. My kids will have to go through my junk after I'm gone and say, why does she have that? Well, that's why. So now you've got that. And I've said that, and appreciations, okay. I do it sometime. I want to say thank you to all the people in our athletics department. My gosh, all of the stuff that they did at graduation with getting water out there and serving us while we were there was just top of the game, no pun intended. They were very good at what they were doing out there, and at some point maybe a workshop item on what they do, and I would like to have a deep dive on what we do for our athletic departments, the ADs, the coaches, from football, who is always the top, but all the way down to anything else that we have in our community. So I just wanted to say thank you to all the ADs and all of the coaches. You go above and beyond. I know I was a coach. It's long nights when you get home at 10 o'clock and have to get up and go to your job. I went to my job, they went back to class. But it's all the same. It's a commitment, and that's what I said to them at LECOM. coaching's a commitment, just like teaching and everything else. And I just want to say a shout out to them. Other than that, I think we've done some good things today. I think that I want to say thank you again to Ms. Abruzzo Dr. Abruzzo, for all the service she provided. I watched her come down that aisle many times giving the audit report, and she was at the top of her game, that's for sure. So I do want to say a special thank you to her for that. And enjoy your conferences, I will say. I will enjoy maybe a day at the beach if I can get time to get out there. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I'll just say ditto to thank you to all the teachers, all the staff in the district. Your work doesn't go unnoticed, and you can tell that by graduations. Although I didn't attend too many with my son's graduation, I did attend the most important one for me, and you could tell by the staff members who came to graduation, the teachers, the relationship when you're shaking hands, and it goes beyond the classroom. And so I want to thank you to all teachers and faculty out there. Specifically want to thank, she doesn't know I'm doing this, but Miss Heather Cattell at Manatee High School. My daughter was in a car accident Friday morning. She's fine, but Miss Cattell was there and stayed there until I got there, until police there, and it was a major comfort for my daughter. So thank you very much, Miss Cattell, and thank you whoever watched her first two periods. Whatever teacher watched her first two periods, thank you very much. I also want to thank the board. I think there's a good article out. I'm sure maybe people saw it, but commending the way we went about the superintendent search, and I do want to thank you all. I want to thank the community for being involved in that. I think that it pretty much went flawlessly. We stuck to the process, and it was important, I think, to stick to that process, and to we told the community this is what we were going to do, and we did it. And so I want to say thank you to the board. I thought that it pretty much went as flawless as it could go. Good luck, everybody, finishing out with exams, high school, etc. I know it's the last couple of days. I tell my kids all the time, it's the last couple of days, but these grades do count. So I know summer, you got plenty of time for summer, so make sure you're still hanging in there. And to that, wish everybody a good evening, and we'll see you Friday. We are adjourned.